Hello, August. How are you? It's Past Podcast. We'll be recording every day for the month of August. Having to remember not to say April is an adjustment since I just did this a couple of months ago. But this is the past, or the Past Podcast. And we're podcasting each day in August. So check out the show. You might find something new. We ain't playing around here. We not joking, y'all. Episode 115 coming at you like a case. What is good? The past is back. I'm your host, BT. Recording these episodes using the Blue Yeti microphone, uploading them to Spreaker.com. Links are in the show notes or in the description. I'm not going to really waste a lot of time. I'm going to jump into it today. Before I get started, I want to say one thing, and hopefully it's not noticeable, but it's noticeable to me. So I'm going to share it with you all because y'all know I'm always going to be transparent and keep it as real as I can. I'm not going to hit y'all with the aggressive keep it 100 scenario because I know that can be annoying and redundant. But the past couple of days, I will admit, I have been as close to 100% as I can be. It's not impacting me to the point that I can't do the show because I know I have a show to do. And if it has or has not gotten to that point, believe me, I will come on the microphone with a strand of voice to share what's going on and let you all know what the story is and what the script is all about, because it is not fun to not feel 100% when you're doing something, especially when you want to give 100% to what you're doing. So I don't want to sit here and, like I said, I always say this constantly. I'm not sitting here saying it in the attempt of looking for pity. I'm just saying because I know a lot of people do take time and listening to the shows or downloading the shows. So I don't want it to seem as though I'm not here and giving you all my best effort, because that's far from the case. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to throw y'all these shows, I'm going to hit you with some information, and today is no exception. As we have indulged a good 2 minutes, because I did want to get house rules out of the way first. I have a very serious topic that I'm going to get into. This is a bit of a personal topic, and it's kind of an ironic discussion because I know when I was doing the podcast every day in April, I was, kind of letting my layers down, talking about different things, addressing stuff going on with me, but not really bringing you into my routine. And I feel as though today's episode will be a little different from that norm, and I'll explain why in a moment. Not today, but at this time 3 years ago, I was nowhere near close to where I am now as far as a person. I was kind of hitting, I don't want to say a decline, but I was kind of hitting a unique slope in life and kind of learning from my mistakes is the best way to describe it. What I will do, because I'm me and I'm honest, I'm not going to give extreme details, but I'll give I have a blog that discusses what happened and what kind of pushed things to get near where they were at that point that year. Because a few days in advance, actually on the 26th, was when I was able to value something as small as being free and being open to an adjustment. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because the one thing that I felt I should have been an advocate for more, I wasn't an advocate for, and I became a part of the statistics that is not fun. So I'm gonna give you a couple of stats, and I know a lot of y'all are like, well, wait, you sat here and told us the title. I mean, you told us the number of the episode, but you haven't told us what you're talking about. So I'm gonna give a few facts or a few statistics, and then we'll get right into the story. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million men and women. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic hotlines worldwide. 20,000. I want y'all to think about that. Like, you think about how many phone calls or how long the average person is on one phone call, and just think of 20,000 people who are calling for assistance. Like I said, we're talking about domestic violence today. And I know my last episode, I was kind of in between because I wanted to talk about depression, anxiety, things of that nature. And this, trust me when I say, that wasn't the case as to what caused me to be ignorant and blatant in my wrongdoing. Mine was, I wasn't in the right place personally, and it was one of the worst things that I did, which was alienating myself. And because of that, it caused me to learn a very valuable lesson back in November of 2013. To give a backstory, and I'm not going to give many stories because I know not everyone wants stories to be shared, and I usually try to get permission of doing things of this nature. I had family who was involved, and at the time when it happened, I'll do this to be fair. I'll tell stories. I won't tell names. I won't tell dates and times, because unless those people know, then they'll be able to kind of put the pieces together as they listen. I was employed at the time, and I came home from work and received a phone call asking to check the news. When I looked at the news and realized it was a family member of mine and the involvement of what had occurred, I didn't process it. To me, it never happened. It's been quite a few years since then, but at the time, I didn't process it. I kind of, I still went through my routine. I did things. A friend of mine, I'll never forget it. At the time, we were friends. We don't talk now, but such is life. But one of my friends then, she was asking me, like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? What do you need? And I was like, everything's already been completed, and I'm kind of just in that, I don't want to say numb state, but I'm kind of in that restart or reset phase of just handling life and being, level-headed through everything. I really, looking back at it, I really wish I was closer to that person. And I also know it was kind of like it was an evidence in disconnect, but there was not a true confirmation of how much of a disconnect there was until everything started to happen. And once that occurred, that then put pieces together. The person who was involved, of course, ended up having a sentence and all that type of jazz. So, I mean, there was justice, but there wasn't justice in a sense. Like, justice doesn't bring someone back. And I'm going to explain what I mean in saying that in a moment. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was employed in one of my jobs. Like I said, I'm not putting any names or personalities. Y'all know I'm like I said, BT and Brian, I'm giving y'all those. Like, I'm gonna give you that. But companies, locations, times, Timelines, no, I refuse. Even in reading my blog, you have to kind of really know me to understand what I may or may not be talking about. And that was from a mistake that I made years ago. But a couple years later, was in one of my employments. I was reading stories on social media addressing that something had happened, and I didn't really know or understand what was going on until I realized like the location and how close it was, and putting two and two together, I kind of was able to get a little, get some assistance in figuring out what was what. Went to see who it was. First thing in my head was that's not them. I had a whole different outlook about things in that time frame. Work, handle that, had it occur, learned a lot, I ain't gonna say learned a lot, but acknowledge what went down, etc., etc. I am proud to say now, even with him even with the person who was involved, didn't mean to say him, her, whomever, but even with the person who was involved, that was the assailant or the assaulter. They did get a sentence as well, and they have to live with that. And then it's tough. What's even heavier now, because I look at it and looking at the as of today, and factoring in how many, how much their kids have grown. One of them is getting ready to start or has started school, and coincidentally, it's almost like a networking. It's like a network in 6 degrees of separation and meeting someone else, and all of them knowing each other, and it just kind of coming together. So little things make big impacts, and I never realized, like looking back at that time. At that particular moment, social networking and meeting people, that wouldn't have been Brian at all. That would have been something that, yeah, let me know how it is, or I'll see pictures and talk about it then. Now, like little stuff like that, I get it, and it's just the way it is. Fast forward, practically a couple months later, I would almost say, well, no, I'm sorry, not even a couple months, because their incident happened at that time. Fast forward a few years later, I'm involved, dealing with someone, literally, I'm not even say wrong place, wrong time, because as far as when things were going well, They were fine. It was nothing really intense. That was one of my darkest years, and very few people know that, because I really didn't say much about it at the time. I talk about it now because it's not a big deal. Like, it's practically ironic, because there were people who I was involved with that year, who now to this day, it's down to practically, wow, it was that. Yeah, that was an awkward year. I'm saying it like that. I'm not laughing about it because it's not funny. Like, let me rewind. I knew people who I was involved with folks, and first person, we're pretty much at one social media source, and even on that social media source, I don't really check and track anything, because I don't know what I don't know. I don't care to concern myself with. Second person, haven't heard from them. It took a couple years to really kind of process that it was time to let them go. The third person, I just recently, about a week ago, dispersed myself from having social media connections with them at all. They pretty much had every option. The only one that I kind of left as open was Xbox, and that's gone. And the last person is where the incident occurred. There was nothing involved as far as like mental anything of that sort. I think it was just I hit a wall, and at that time I didn't have an outlet. Like, I'll tell people now, like, and I've come clean in saying this, I never would have realized in 34 years, yeah, I'm telling age now, that podcasting would be an outlet, or that I could sit and talk in front of a microphone and get everything off of my chest, to get everything out of my system that I want to get into, and not feel judgmental or stressed about what other people think. Because at the end of the day, trying to make everybody else happy and you end up being miserable is never a good idea. I was trying to make someone happy, and I was trying to do something that I thought at the time was possibly a good idea, but in hindsight it turned out being a horrendous nightmare. Going back and evaluating it now, the one thing that I always can recall, and I look at this with things now, is I don't process a lot of information when it happens. It's almost as if, I'm not even gonna say it's a 56K modem. It ain't dial up. I'm at a high speed internet. I may be T1, whatever you want to call it, for all my techie listeners who may be listening. But when I feel that point of really having to stop and process and look at everything, it makes me understand a lot was not done properly to get through what had occurred. And thankfully, I'm at a stage where I can acknowledge and admit that, because at one point I never did. I don't justify what happened. I don't sit and make like it was a copacetic situation. I say this every night, every couple of weeks. I feel like I should have never been there. I also know me not being there wouldn't have taught me to be where I am now. So I'm sharing this story, and I'm talking to you all. Like I said, I'm giving Cliff Notes, but not giving the story itself, solely because I know it's not meant to be easy by a long shot. I don't want it to be easy. I'd prefer the challenge. I'd prefer the battles, the tasks, the getting through, the getting over, things of that nature. All I asked for, and I know I was like supposed to give stats and information, and I have, like I said, it's plenty more statistics. Women between the ages of, so it's like I said, it's a lot of stats, but I really don't want this to be a stat based podcast. Like the stats, I'm gonna share links. It's gonna be a link for the main site, which is National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and I'll share the stats that they have for Virginia. It may be a couple years back, but I mean the numbers don't really impact or don't really have too much of a modification, other than people are still calling and are still needing help. On the page that's provided at the bottom of the page, they have contact points if you need to reach out to someone and get assistance. Like, my number one recommendation, or my strongest recommendation, of course, obviously it would be number one if it's the strongest, is don't try to fight it alone. I feel like that's what people try to do, and it doesn't really work to their advantage. And also, because I'm in Virginia, I'm going to share the Virginia link as well. It's not easy. And I mean, now, like I said, now with me having the mindset that I do, I think that's why I've not been as quick to go out and dating and meeting people. Like, I'm more just relaxing and chilling and just working on me and just getting what I need to get done for myself. And I'm sorry, because this will be helpful. If you're in Virginia, or if you're primarily if you're in Richmond, if you're looking to get help, they do have, it's called Virginia Sexual and Domestic Violence Action Alliance. This is a site that actually I just pulled up today. The phone number is 804-377-0335. And if you're needing to mail or contact anyone, they have that address listed as well. There are quite a few contact points on this page that are helpful. Don't feel as though resources are enabling you or that you don't need help if you know you need help. Sometimes we don't see signs, and I'm not sitting here saying that I really I'm saying this because it's just on my mind because I'm talking about it. The help that I needed was not where I was. The help I needed was with the people who I left out of my life. Friends, family, church, everything. Like, I truly tried to be Superman to try to do it by myself, and in reality, it just blew up in my face. So I'm not a saint. I'm sorry. I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect by far, and that's what I want everyone who's listening to understand. So that's what I'm leaving with you all today as a kind of a closing, and that is, if you need help, get help. If you are in a situation, like if you're at a point with someone where you feel frustrated enough to possibly go that route, think about it. Just believe me, think it through. And if you're involved with someone who is abusive towards you, and it's not just, and this is men or women, if it's a physical, mental, verbal, whatever type of abuse, address it with someone. You don't have to call, like the number that I gave you or any of the hotlines, you don't have to call those people. Call someone and get help. And I never realized how important that was until like going through what I went through, and then having certain circumstances come up where people needed help, and either they didn't tell anyone, or they tried to make it like everything was fine and you knew it wasn't. But anywho, that's my story for today. I know I've kind of talked a little longer than normal, but I wanted to at least get that addressed because it's definitely not a small story. It is something that is important in our society in America, and just hoping I'm hoping this reached or touched someone in some manner. So until next time, the past is signing out. Y'all take it easy. Another episode complete. Another show shared. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you checking out any current shows or previous episodes. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can look me up on the Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter under Past Podcast. If you'd like to go to the website, it is available at pastpodcast.com, where you can listen to this episode as well as previous episodes. Until next time, y'all take it easy.